I have been very excited about this last session for lots of reasons. One is that the content's great. But I want to tell you a little bit. I'm going to go off script here just a moment. I was here 6 years ago. 5 years ago, another partner joined me from the same place I came from, and his name was Chris Daubert. And Chris went through the process and was fortunate to become Vice Chancellor of Agriculture and Dean of CAFNR. One of the first things he did when he got here was travel the state, which is not unusual. When he came back, we had a lot of conversations, and one of the things he said, we're growing a whole lot of stuff here, and it's going somewhere else for all the value. And I said, yep, I'm glad you caught it, because I had seen the same thing. So with a lot of work and a lot of effort, he began to really build a movement around that. And I say movement because that's what he's really done. He's created a movement around this idea of food and beverage manufacturing, forestry, all the things we have here, and how do we squeeze more value out of it before it goes somewhere else. So that's what you're going to hear about today. He's smart in that he not only engaged Mizzou, he engaged all the universities, different ones in the system, as well as other publics in Missouri. So you have a whole coalition of folks. You also have industry involved in this, government leaders, and they'll talk about this some, and that leads us to who I will now introduce. I have been privileged since I've been here. One of the first persons I met politically was a senator who later became Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe. And Mike Kehoe has been a friend, and he's been somebody that I have relied on not only politically to ask questions of, how do we do this, how can we do it better, but I do also know that he's deeply committed to extension, to the University of Missouri, and all that we do in the University of Missouri system. But as we think about that, he's going to come and moderate this session as we think about a $93 billion industry that really brings in a lot of farm gate income into this state. We know that, and that's from beef cattle to soybeans to rice. We know that value-added agriculture offers a great opportunity to continue that, to actually grow that by 35 billion more, or more than 70 billion more over the next 5 years. So we can actually grow that. We can actually double that capacity if you think about growing that industry. The Show Me State Food, Beverage, and Forest Products Manufacturing Initiative is a collaboration. As I said earlier, it's not just us. It's many partners working together across the state of Missouri to bring good things to Missouri. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Honorable Mike Kehoe, who signed the executive order, and I was there when he did it in 2019, to create the Missouri Food and Beverage Forest Manufacturing Task Force. His vision and leadership have led this through a pandemic and beyond, and it's still going strong. And we appreciate what he's done, not only in the role he's in as Lieutenant Governor, but more importantly, his extra commitment to this task. He will moderate this session today, and without further ado, I give you my friend, the friend of the university and a friend of higher education and a friend of this particular initiative, Mike Kehoe.
Well, thank you, Marshall. Matt, I'm glad you saved your job on your birthday by showing back up for this session. It's my honor to be here today, and I don't know why, Dr. Choi, that we're like 40 feet away from the panel. Is there something I did wrong or something they don't like about me? It is a pleasure to be here today. I come to you very humbly today. I'm a first-generation farmer. I was born and raised in the city of St. Louis, didn't know a horse from a cow until I was 15. My farm friends say I still don't know a horse from a cow. But I've come an incredible long way in an agricultural journey, and this issue is so important to me because of what it means to our state and our future and the young people that we need to be engaged. Young people at this university and others around the state can turn out to be our next generation farmer. And as Marshall mentioned, I was honored and privileged to be able to sign the Food and Forest Products Manufacturing Task Force in 2019. But really that initiative started with Chris Daubert, Dean Daubert, and other industry stakeholders. Chris Chin from the Department of Agriculture, Garrett Hawkins is here with the Missouri Farm Bureau, cattlemen, soybean, pork producers, et cetera, came to the governor and I and said, look, We know this is our number one industry in the state, but there's room to grow. You heard Marshall use some numbers in the billions, and it is, and you'll hear more about that later. But we have additional capacity, and we need to do it through a value-added process. So I think I know this is the right group to kind of get up to speed on where we're at, and you certainly have some experts here. And I'd like to quickly say, part of my lesson in agriculture, part of my growth in agriculture has been with the help of my extension office. I'm a huge fan of the University Extension across the state. When I meet extension folks from one end to the other, they are truly making a life difference in Missourians all across the state, and not just in what you would think as agriculture extension efforts, all the efforts and all the multitude things extension offices do. Thank you for that. Thank you, Marshall, for leading those efforts. I think it's fantastic. Last but not least, before I introduce this great panel that you have before you, I did want to say there's a tie-in with a program that our office runs called Buy Missouri. So Department of Agriculture has a program called Missouri Grown, and we work very closely with our Missouri Grown companies. These are largely family operations that are producing consumable products across our state. And we have a partnership program with them called Buy Missouri. And this happens to be Buy Missouri Week, where we feature Missouri-made products specifically this week to try to get Missourians to understand how important that is to us. Yesterday, we recognized our 500th Buy Missouri member, a veteran-owned business in Warrensburg, Missouri, that interestingly makes products out of goat milk and honey, and the wax from honey. And it's all natural. It's all Missouri-raised stuff that they do. Small family-owned business, but vitally important to the several people that work for them. And most of our Buy Missouri companies have some sort of agricultural tie back to it because we are an agrarian state. So I think it's appropriate to have this particular extension and engagement week the same time we have Buy Missouri Week. And so that makes this, for me, even more special. So thank you for that. And a shameless plug, buymissouri.net. Can we say that, Dr. Choi? Buymissouri.net is the website to go see over 500 companies who manufacture things in the state that each one of them are incredibly spectacular. I would love to introduce our panel today. I told them backstage it's going to take me 2 hours just to read all their bios because Dean Daubert wrote every one of them, and I think he put a bunch of words in that I can't pronounce, but it's going to be good. So just hang with me for a second, and I'll get through this. You heard Marshall say this. Everybody in this room knows Dr. Chris Daubert, serves as the Vice Chancellor and Dean of the College of Agriculture, Food, and Natural Resources here at the University of Missouri. He's also professor in the Division of Food, Nutrition, and Exercise Sciences. Daubert joined Mizzou from North Carolina State University, where he served as a professor and head of the Department of Food, Bioprocessing, and Nutrition Services, director of the Food Rheological Laboratory, and system co-chair of Food, Biochemical, and Engineered System. His research explained the physical chemistry, molecular level interactions, and functionality of food systems while solving problems facing the food and pharmaceutical industries. Daubert is a fellow of the Institute of Food Technologists and is currently serving on their board of directors. Please help me welcome Dean Chris Daubert. Next, we have a great friend of mine who represents an organization that is second to none in the state of Missouri. Garrett Hawkins was first elected to the 15th president of the Missouri Farm Bureau on December 6, 2020. We took a straw poll last night, Garrett, in Buffalo, in Dallas County, and you're the best Farm Bureau president ever, just so you know that. He is a husband, father, and farmer from Appleton City, Missouri, in St. Clair County. Garrett and his wife, Jennifer, and their children, Adlin, Colton, and Tate, are fifth-generation farmers and third-generation in the Hawkins family to own and operate the farm on which they live today. Garrett's professional experience is rooted in service and spans from Farm Bureau, state government, and agribusiness. From 2017 to 19, Garrett served as the Deputy Director of the Missouri Department of Agriculture. Prior to public service, Garrett led Farm Bureau's national lobbying efforts and oversaw organization's policy development process for nearly 15 years. Please help me welcome my friend Garrett Hawkins to the stage. Next, we have Dr. Christi Sudbrock. She has served as an assistant professor in agribusiness at Missouri State University for the past 2 years. Prior to this appointment, she was an instructor at Missouri State for 9 years. She has passion for teaching the next generation of Missouri agriculturists. Her main area of research is looking at the importance of social networks, and relationships within the agriculture industry. These connections are vital for success and may be key to reducing many barriers beginning farmers face as they enter the industry. Dr. Sudbrock currently lives in Greene County with her husband Brian and their 2 children, Riley, Grace, and Keith Marzel. She grew up in rural Missouri as Lafayette County and has a deep love for Missouri agriculture. Please help me welcome Dr. Sudbrock. Last but not least, we have Dr. Sheri Smithey, is a Kaffner alum and Senior Vice President of the Nestle Purina Global Research and Development Network. Sheri started with Nestle in 1995 as a process engineer in the R&D pet food division based in St. Joseph. She worked in many different functions within the R&D group, developing both products and technologies, resulting in product launches and patents. In 2006, Sheri moved to the United Kingdom to work in manufacturing at the Sudbury, UK factory. In 2008, Sheri returned to the U.S. to St. Louis, Missouri. She moved into her current role in 2020, where she is responsible for all aspects of R&D for the pet care category, including nutrition, digital solutions, engineering, product development, and packaging, with the responsibility of 4 global sites supporting Nestle Purina's global pet care business. Please help me welcome Dr. Smithey. And more importantly, Doctor, thank you for the investment Nestle makes in our state. That means a lot to us. I'd like to direct my first question to Dean Daubert what is the history and importance, Dean, of the Food, Beverage, and Forest Products Manufacturing Initiative?
Thank you for that question, and thank you for moderating the panel this afternoon. And I'm pleased to sit here with this esteemed panel, so thank you all for being here. Let me address that question by sharing a little bit of my background. I'm a food engineer. I had a lot of training in food science, and so I'm typically asked, what is it that a food scientist does? Well, friends, they take the products from the farm and they convert it to the things that we all consume each and every day, the things that we find on the grocery store shelves. They make sure that it is done so safely and that it is of a high quality. At my former institution, we learned a little bit that I spent 21 years in North Carolina. I was part of an initiative that looked to see whether or not there could be benefits for the state if it were to make an investment in food processing and manufacturing. And indeed, they found that it would be beneficial, and the end result was the creation of the North Carolina Food Innovation Laboratory. Well, when I came to Missouri in 2017, I was here with my friend Marshall Stewart, and I did travel the state. Put a lot of mileage on the old Buick, as I like to say, and I saw that, like in North Carolina, we produce a lot of commodities here in the state. We're leaving a lot of money on the table as well, because though we do some processing, I thought there could be an opportunity, an economic benefit to agriculture if the state were to again invest in food manufacturing and processing. So in 2018, we put a team together, a team of thought leaders, of colleagues and friends from Farm Bureau, from the Department of Agriculture, representation from the commodity organizations, from academics, from Extension, and they all put money into this idea. And we partnered with the Missouri Ag Foundation, and we received some funding from MASBDA, of funding to do a study, an economic assessment that would identify what is the possibility if the state were to invest around food manufacturing. So in 2018, we got that funding, and we conducted this study, and we hired a firm from outside of Missouri, and we felt that was important because we wanted an unbiased perspective to take a look inside our state and to honestly assess what were the possibilities if we were to invest around manufacturing. And that report came back in 19, and it identified some really powerful numbers that raised a lot of eyebrows and received a lot of positive attention, especially from politicians. So later in 2019, Lieutenant Governor Kehoe signed an executive order creating a statewide task force, and we got to work right away. And for the next year, we met across the state as a task force to lay out a plan for how to best pursue food processing and manufacturing. And in 2020, we presented the results from the task force in a report to Governor Parson. And essentially that report identified pursuing two initiatives. One is what we affectionately know as Mo5, Missouri 5. And the 5 stands for food, feed, fiber, fuel, and forests. The other initiative we call Mo Missouri FEN, F-E-N, and that stands for the Food Entrepreneur Network. So those initiatives got rolled out just about the time we were coping with a global pandemic. And so those efforts got slowed a bit, but they did maintain a heartbeat throughout the pandemic. And now that we're coming out of the pandemic, those initiatives are gaining steam and growing stronger every single day. And I'm delighted to see the progress that we're making. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. As Dean mentioned, that study, which was funded by our agricultural partners, Farm Bureau being one of them, I see soybean up here, they were involved, was conducted by Techonomy, which did the survey in 2019. And they projected the potential to expand. You heard Marshall say earlier, Chris Chin was here, she'd tell you our agriculture industry had this last year about a $93 billion impact, that there's 25 and up to $70 billion in growth in that industry in Missouri, again, by value-added products and doing things differently, a little differently we're doing now. More importantly, it could create nearly 70,000 jobs and generate $4.4 billion of new personal income and contribute $3 billion in annual tax revenues. And when Chris said that, every politician in that building's eyes lit up because they like to hear about tax revenues. But that's real meat on the potatoes when you're talking about a business case for what we can do to grow this agricultural economy. So Garrett, this initiative stands to benefit Missouri's producers. How do you think it will benefit Missouri's farmers and ranchers?
Well, appreciate the question, Lieutenant Governor. I think it's important to start from a point of appreciation when you look at our farm and ranch families. Of course, our tremendous extension network, you all are well familiar with Missouri ranking second in the nation in number of farms. And you look at specific commodity production, we're in the top 10 in 11 different commodities. And within the Farm Bureau world, we often tout that we're essentially the bridge between the South and the Midwest when you look at the diversity of production that we have here. So you start out, at least for us, start from a point of appreciation. And truly, if you look at our track record, Dean, I appreciate you mentioned the Missouri Ag and Small Business Development Authority. You look at USDA Rural Development and other partners. Missouri has a track record of trying to do more, right, with what we have from the farm gate. But truly what this initiative represents is the most comprehensive and collaborative effort that we have ever had in Missouri agriculture to bring everyone to the table of to figure out how we can do more. And for me, Lieutenant Governor, I look at this as a long ball game. For me, what drives me is the opportunity to bring the kids home. And I'm working to make sure that our farm is profitable, that we have stewarded our resources, that we have instilled a work ethic and a passion in our kids that hopefully one of the three or maybe all three will want to be involved in carrying the farm forward. But it's hard to do that if you don't have opportunity in your community. And that's why we talk about broadband, healthcare, all these quality of life issues. But it also comes down to there's got to be economic opportunity in these communities around the state. And that's where this initiative is so important. When you talk about adding value to what we produce and creating more processing and more infrastructure within the supply chain, what that means is more opportunity for our young people to come home to rural Missouri. if they so choose. And so that's what I get so passionate about, because this isn't just about the today for our farm and ranch families. It's about leaving it better for those who are going to come behind us. And hopefully today, what we're going to find is this is one piece of the puzzle. And certainly our friends in the legislature just renewed the MASBA tax credits to make sure that for another 6 years that we have tools in the toolbox to be used to help spur these investments. But also we've got to continue to look at the regulatory environment in the state to make sure that we are the place that's easy to do business. And we saw that with American Foods Group, and we're seeing that with others. So again, coming back around, this is a big puzzle. The Food and Beverage Manufacturing Initiative is one key piece that allows us to look out, set goals, and figure out how we're going to get there. But ultimately, for me, this is personal. It's personal about how we bring these kids home. And that's what I love talking about with our Farm Bureau members, of how we're going to create opportunity for their kids and grandkids.
I've met Garrett's kids. They're sharp, and I want them to stay home as well. Garrett mentioned the U.S. Food Group's initiative. I think it's important just quickly touch on that when you talk about adding value to agriculture. I'm a cattle producer, and cattle producers forever in this state have traditionally sent their cattle out of state to fatten because we had no processing plant here. Processing plants wouldn't come here because we had no fat cattle. It was the chicken and the egg. And we figured out a lot of efforts and research from this group that you've heard that formed in 2019, along with the governor's office, economic development, county commissioners, a whole slew of team of people, landed that business into Warren County, a $450 million investment, 1,300 jobs, and they are now going to be processing beef cattle. I think the last number I heard, Garrett, was 2,500 a day. So, and they'll buy direct from the farm, or they'll have order buyers. So as a cattle producer, that's music to our ears. Now we'll figure out how to fatten them here, and we can have them farm, and that chain, that value-added chain that we talked about, really comes back. One of the key outcomes of the initiative has been the partnership established with the Missouri Department of Agriculture, Farm Bureau, MU Extension, and higher education institutions across the state. It's an unprecedented level of synergy between institutions, and from what I've been told, it's never happened before that all of our institutions that have an ag focus have come together under the MoFin kind of umbrella. Today, representing Missouri State University is Dr. Christi Sudbrock. Christi, what can Missouri State University do for the Springfield region and for the state of Missouri to grow more agribusiness?
Yeah, thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And I want to say thank you so much for the invitation to be here. What a wonderful opportunity. We're so thankful to be included, and just the hospitality throughout this. It's just second to none, so we really appreciate that. One of the things I love about MoFin and this collaboration is I think it's so easy when you're in your own area to kind of put your head down and be really focused on what's happening within your own system. And so it's been so wonderful to get to kind of look up and to see what's happening across the state. So what I wanted to touch on was a couple of resources at Missouri State University that I think kind of fly under the radar that are available to our producers. And the first one is the Jordan Valley Innovation Center. So JVIC is actually located in downtown Springfield. It's in a renovated MFA feed mill. And if you want to kind of, oversimplify it, it's a small business incubator, but really it's so much more. So the folks who are there not only get access to office space, but they also get access to laboratories for product development. They get access to graduate students who are helping with that research and product development. They get access to consultants who can help create or refine business plans. So it's a really holistic approach. And, there's not that many agribusiness ventures that are currently in JVIC, and we would really like to see that change. Another one is the Mountain Grove State Fruit Experiment Station. And if you're aware of the station, it's probably because of the wine program. And I completely understand why that's made it very popular. But in addition to grapes, we actually have a number of projects with all different kinds of fruits. So native fruits, raspberries, all the things. Not only are we doing research, but we're also have opportunities for folks to come and get some technical education in some of those areas. We've actually partnered with Extension to expand the different workshops and training opportunities that are available down at the station. So thank you all.
Thank you very much. And Jordan Valley is an awesome facility. As we mentioned, agriculture, $93 billion industry, but we know we can do better. The study shows we know we can better. We have experts on the stage and in the audience here and watching us online that know we can do better. These industries already employ many Missourians. Sheri, can you describe your company for the audience and discuss how the existing industry can benefit and thrive from this initiative?
Yes. So I want to say first, thank you for having me here. It's a great opportunity to talk about a couple of things that I'm very passionate about. Certainly agriculture, and I'll kind of start to explain that, and the opportunity to share the Nestle Purina business and kind of our footprint within the state of Missouri, which I think sometimes people don't realize. So Nestle Purina, or Purina, is a global leader in the pet care space, and we have deep roots in the state of Missouri. Nestle Purina is actually a category or a group underneath Nestle, which is the largest food company in the world. It's based in Vevey, Switzerland. And it's a global company, so as it was mentioned earlier, we have businesses throughout the globe. The Purina business, though, was founded in St. Louis. I'm sure many of you know this, more than 125 years ago with William Danforth. And even today, we have such a strong operational presence within the state. So if we take just St. Louis, in St. Louis, in downtown, I'm sure you all have seen that very large building that says Purina at the top. So that's a campus. It's about 55 acres that's located there in downtown St. Louis. We have the North American Business Headquarters, the Latin American Business Headquarters, the Global Strategic Business Unit, and then the R&D PetCare headquarters as well. Just south of St. Louis, so we're a little bit unique in that we design and manufacture our own equipment. I'm also a food engineer, so this is what really makes me excited. But so we do manufacture our own equipment, and we have a site in South St. Louis where we manufacture that equipment and we send it and deploy it across the globe. And then just outside of St. Louis, in Gray Summit, we have the Purina Event Center, where we have many dog shows and cat shows and other pet-related events. So then if we go to the Boot Hill in Bloomfield, Missouri, we have a cat litter manufacturing facility. It's also a mining facility there. And then when you go to the opposite end of the state, to St. Joseph, Missouri, we have a wet pet food manufacturing facility, and then another R&D facility is located there as well. So as you can see, we have quite a large operational footprint within the state. And while we have broad capabilities within pet care, Purina is probably best known for its dog and cat food, the chows, the Pro Plans, as well as treats. So we are the largest and leading manufacturer of pet food in the U.S., and the majority of our factories are actually located in the Midwest, given where ingredient supply is, as well as supply chain routes. We have a number of factories. I lose count because we're actually building 2 more factories right now. With the growth in the pet food business, this is causing us we need additional capacity, and so we continue to add plants. So as you can imagine, with the growth that we're seeing, we need a lot of ingredients. And just to kind of give you scale, for a dry manufacturing factory, and we have 12 of them right now, a typical factory will run 300 to 400,000 tons a year of pet food. And that's just in the U.S. Now we do export some of that, but that's just in the U.S. And so that requires a lot of ingredients. The other thing about the pet food industry is we're a byproduct industry. So we run adjacent to the human food and often pull those side streams. But those are value-added products, and that's really what we're talking about with this initiative. So this is really the key opportunity. And so it's the farming and then the subsequent processing of those primary and secondary food product ingredients that really is the opportunity. And then that helps us, in turn, deliver those products to the consumer. There is a second opportunity that exists, and that's in the area of sustainability. So we are continuing to evolve our ambition to get to a net zero carbon emissions. But that only works when it works with the agribusiness and with the farmers. So we can't do it on our own. And so the challenge is not only creating these products, but it's also focusing the work on reducing our carbon emissions. And there is a win-win opportunity. So the collaboration is very important, and I've been down several times to see the dean to talk to him about sustainable practices and this byproduct industry and some of these opportunities that are related to that. And it's projects like this one that really help us to be able to move that forward for the state.
That's awesome. Thank you again for your investment. As Chris mentioned, Dean Daubert mentioned, the report that was presented to the governor in 2020 identified two subcategories or groups that we've already established: the Missouri Food Entrepreneur Network, known as MoFin, and the Missouri Food, Feed, Fiber, Fuels, and Forest Institute, or Mo5. We wouldn't be government if we didn't have an acronym. Chris, you've been part of the Mo5 Consortium Task Force for almost 2 years. Tell me about how this group works to respond to growth opportunities for existing Missouri agribusinesses or attracting new enterprises to the state. Why is a group like this beneficial?
All right, so just to establish a baseline, MoFen, the Food Entrepreneur Network, is focused on developing businesses, creating businesses, working with entrepreneurs who have an interest to put products into the grocery stores. Mo5, Food, Feed, Fiber, Fuel, and Forests, is dedicated to help our existing businesses that are here in the state, or to help us recruit businesses into Missouri. Mo5 is composed of a team of leaders from academics, from industry, from the government, that come together, and when an opportunity presents itself to Missouri, they assemble what I would call SWAT teams, fast groups or teams that come together to rapidly respond to opportunities when they are quickly presented to us. Again, with the goal of bringing those opportunities to Missouri and to benefit all of Missouri agriculture. So that's what Mo5 is focused on.
That's awesome. We've seen some success, Garrett. We've talked about the American Food Group's beef processing facility in Warren County. When Missourians land new agribusinesses like AFG, how do these opportunities benefit our Missouri producers?
Well, when I talk about American Foods Group, I honestly want to stand, folks, because how I describe it to our members is this is a game changer, not just for the cattle industry in the state, but for Missouri agriculture. And in fact, I would go so far as to say it puts Missouri on the map, and other folks who are looking for potential expansions or a place or a new home, they better be looking at Missouri, because folks are wondering, well, what made the difference for American Foods Group? And I can tell you what made the difference. It was the care factor. We were hungry for a game changer. We've always said chicken or the egg, right? How can we attract a major processor when we don't have the fat cattle per se? Or what incentives can we put out there to finish more animals here, but what are we going to do when we don't have the capacity here, right? So American Foods Group has answered that question for us. They have put the challenge there for Missouri agriculture. And I look at Missouri Extension and our universities around the state and the role that they're going to play in helping our cattlemen and women meet this challenge. Now again, American Foods Group knows how to do this. They're going to source cattle from all across the region. They'll be pulling dairy cows from as far away as Ohio. But they want more Missouri beef, and this is a tremendous opportunity. So when I talk about the care factor, first and foremost, as we think about AFG and future opportunities, our communities and counties have to be welcoming. And that's exactly what we saw in Warren County. They rolled out the red carpet to show the Rosen family and the leadership of American Foods Group that they would have a home there. Secondly, we had an administration, an all-of-administration approach to welcoming American Foods Group, led by Governor Parson and all of the cabinet, and saying, and listening first to what the needs are and responding to make sure that the support would be there so that AFG can be successful. And then finally, I would say that the ag groups, everybody working together to show that support and how we communicate to the public and how we communicate with our members to this opportunity. Folks, it is tremendous. And honestly, when I talk about it and when I think about the Rosen family, the third generation in the Rosen family, putting their own money into this and saying Missouri is where they want to be, it sends a huge signal, a huge signal. I love telling my other State Farm Bureau presidents that we landed the most modern beef processing facility that our country has seen in a couple of decades, at least at this scale. So as we think about the future, I mean, you're already hearing, we're talking about capacity building, right? We are the epicenter of animal health companies in the world. We are the epicenter of plant science PhDs in the world. And now you have something like AFG, and folks are saying, wow, maybe Missouri is where I need to look. So that's why I get excited about the future and the conversations that are happening through this initiative.
This is not scripted. The Missouri Development Finance Board is a board in Missouri that helps businesses with certain infrastructure tax credit projects. I happen to sit on that board, and when AFG came to us for their final application, their founding partners specifically said the reason they picked Missouri is they've never, and they had several other states they were looking at, they had no other state where not only the local, the county, the state, the economic developers, the educational institutions, our stakeholders in the ag industry, all worked together to convince them we were the right place to do business. And quite frankly, so they chose Missouri because we had our act together and we were working together. So it's always great to hear that. Big credit goes to Economic Development and Department of Ag, who worked together along with Governor Parson to bring all of us together to get to that point. So that's great. MoFin, as we mentioned, is focusing on creating a hub and spoke network among the state's higher education institutions, Missouri Department of Agriculture, state ag organizations, and MU Extension to help aspiring entrepreneurs. This group has representatives from many Missouri ag programs, and this is a huge list, so hang with me, but I think it speaks to how important this is, including St. Louis Community College, Crowder College, North Central Missouri College, Ozark Technical Community College, Three Rivers College, State Tech, Northwest Missouri State University, Missouri State University, Moberly Area Community College, St. Charles Community College, Southeast Missouri State University, Truman State University, University of Central Missouri, College of the Ozarks, Lincoln University, Missouri S&T, and State Fair Community College, all folks who have come together again for the first time ever to say, what can we do together collaboratively to move Missouri's agriculture future? The goal for MoFin is to establish systems for entrepreneurs to access the network for rapid assistance in launching food business in particular. Christi, as an ag economist, how is your institution prepared to respond to aspiring agribusiness developers?
Yeah. So there's a number of places where we feel we're well situated to help, but I wanted to mention an area that we're seeing a real increased interest in has actually been in hydroponics and urban gardening. So a couple of years ago, our campus dining actually came to us and said, we're really interested in increasing the local food that we're able to offer on campus. But obviously we have some pretty restrictive contract language about where we're allowed to get that from. And so we worked with them to develop grow towers on campus, where a substantial amount now of the leafy green vegetables that those college kids super love is now grown on campus. But not only we were involved in the design and the implementation of that, but also providing students an educational opportunity in managing that, the towers themselves, the harvesting, and the maintaining of them. We also have a thriving community garden, which has kind of become its own little community garden incubator, which has been really interesting. That was actually a student organization, and what they were looking for was an opportunity to get those experiential learning outside of the classroom. And what that grew into is the community around wanted to be involved in that. And so it's served as not only experience for the students, but also for the community in the logistics of a community garden. And where does the funding for this come from? And who's responsible for X, Y, Z? And what happens to this produce once it's harvested? And on and on and on. And that's been really interesting to be a part of. And the last one, and then I'll tie this all back into being an ag economist, because we go circles. Has been with NICSA schools. So recently, NICSA revitalized their FFA program, which we are so glad to see in our area. And as part of that, they're working in new agriculture curriculum. And they've designed a new greenhouse, which is in the process. And we've been involved in that process of what that greenhouse should look like and grow towers again. And part of that will be providing students to, again, oversee some of the teaching aspect of that, the maintenance, and the production from there. And tied into all of this is keeping in mind that all of these things can be really cool and fantastic, but if the math doesn't work out, then all they are is just a really cool thing that people are doing. And so we're keeping in mind that as we do these things, we've got to keep in mind, what's the practicality of this? Is this something that people are going to be able to do on a scale that economically makes sense? And so we're putting a focus on and making sure that when we're doing projects, that we're keeping that in mind, that there's going to be an end user and the math has to work, or else it doesn't work.
Script. I'm going to circle back. Has everybody ever seen a grow tower? Christi, just tell them a little bit about these. They're fascinating. I've seen them. It's unbelievable. Can you tell them a little bit about a grow tower?
Yes. Just think vertically. Hi. Oh my gosh. And now I'm gonna mess up on dimensions. But I think the ones at our university are about 6 feet tall. And what they've got is the plant is planted directly into a soilless medium, and then the way that we run it is that nutrient-rich water is filtered through the systems and onto the root. And then with leafy greens, it's really easy because you come through and you just cut off the top of it, and they regrow, and it just keeps going and going and going. So it's a really neat project and very practical when we think about folks with non-traditional ag backgrounds of wanting to be involved in production, a production project of some type, that grow towers can be a really neat way to get people involved.
Yeah, and just to expand on that one more, in urban agriculture now, we went to a facility in St. Louis where they're taking shipping cargo containers and they're putting hydroponic grow walls in them. So the same concept, the walls roll from one side of the container to the other, and they're just loaded with lettuce and broccoli and different things that would grow out of the pods. And they can have one of these cargo containers that would grow up to 4 acres of what a normal farm would grow, but they can grow 365 days a year in any condition because they're their own environment. You can put them right on a lot in the middle of an urban environment. So lots of cool stuff coming out of that. It's value added, Dean. We're always about value added. The goal for the initiative, as we've mentioned many times, is to help Missouri agriculture have a greater economic impact. The numbers, as I've mentioned, are staggering. Sheri, from your perspective with Nestle Purina, what are the biggest opportunities you see resulting from this initiative?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. So I touched on this a little bit when I did the intro question. But I feel like this is an important and exciting initiative, and it's a great opportunity for Missouri to have that thought leadership in this agriculture space, from the farmer to the ingredient processor to the finished goods processor, which is really where I weigh in. The opportunity exists across the entire value chain. So oftentimes when people think about agriculture, they don't think necessarily about those non-traditional types of agriculture opportunities. Or they will oftentimes think about primary products. So if we think about the hog producers in the state of Missouri, not only are they feeding Missourians and Americans fantastic pork cuts and products, but the side stream, the stream that oftentimes people don't see, those parts that are not for human consumption are used extensively in other industries. So oftentimes you'll have fresh frozen meat byproducts that will go into wet pet food or dry pet food. You have the pork lard or the fats that are oftentimes used in pet food as well. And then you'll have the dried meat byproducts as well. So there's nothing that's really wasted, but those are certainly valued up opportunities. Especially when we start to think about the upcycled environment. So with that, as we start to project out and we look at the pet food business, so the growth of the category, so this is just category growth, is in the mid-teens. So it's roughly 15-16% per year. And the pandemic did a lot for the pet food industry. But one of the key areas that we're starting to be concerned about is the protein pipeline and the fat pipeline. Fats are oftentimes used in the fuel industry as well. And so as we start to think about the need to feed pets and the industry, we have to start to get creative about what are those different protein sources. We are a bit slave to the human feeding experience. So as the consumption goes up and down, so does our ingredient supply. And so this opportunity to think about, certainly the grow towers. Insects is another big area that we're seeing a lot of movement. It's farming on a different scale. What you feed the insects matters. Insects are highly fatty, believe it or not. So we've learned a lot about insects as we've started to think about what are other proteins that we could use. What could we get from fresh water or from plants in freshwater or saltwater? What could you grow from a unicellular organism or even cultured meat? So protein feeding humans and feeding pets and all these other uses, biodegradable packaging, all of those things start with an agriculture product. And you have to have some sort of conversion and manufacturing to be able to deliver against that.
We never thought about the fatty acids in insects. I can guarantee you that before we walked in the room.
Yeah.
Nobody here did. Don't let them tell you any different. We're going to conclude real quickly because we're about out of time. But I'd love to get the panel's kind of closing thoughts. Dean Daubert, if you'd lead those comments.
I've actually had an entire meal prepared from insect protein, and believe it or not, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible.
We knew there was something a little off about you, now we know.
I'll conclude by saying I have been super excited my entire career about value-added agriculture. That's why I was a food engineer, am a food engineer, committed to food science. I was excited about this initiative when I came to Missouri. I'm even more energized after being on the stage with all of you, with representatives from government, from Farm Bureau, from academics, from the industry. We all share that same passion, and I am charged. I'm ready to get going. Let's roll this thing out. I'm going to tip the hat to my colleague Rob Kallenbach, who leads the college's ag and environmental extension efforts. And he talks about having one focus for MU Extension, Ag and Environment Extension, and that is to double the economic impact of agriculture by the year 2030 without compromising our precious natural resources. And I believe this initiative is one answer to helping us achieve that goal, and I'm delighted to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett.
Well, so yesterday I had the chance to appear on a radio show on KMOX out in St. Louis, and they wanted to talk about the importance of the ag tax credits and picking up on the governor's signing of the bill last week. And after we talked about the ag tax credits, they said, well, what's on the minds of you and other farmers? And I said, well, inflation, failed energy policy, record high inputs, drought. I could literally go on. It is a hard time for farm and ranch families as well as all consumers and all of you. I hope with this panel today, many of you are faces that are known and respected in our communities across the state. Our families respect you for the work that you do and the expertise that you bring them. And given all of these things that are impacting our pocketbooks as we think about how to keep the farm going, I hope you can be messengers along with us in sharing the story that we are working hard to create opportunity for today's farmers and even more so for those who are going to come behind us. And that's what really this is all about. And I hope you can relay my personal excitement as I think about American Foods Group and the other success stories that are happening now. Folks, I could not be more excited about the future of agriculture and the state's economy and with what's happening. So please, if I can ask anything of you today or charge you with anything, it's help us tell the story. We can all empathize because we're feeling it too, but tell them help is on the way. And we, in fact, are working hard to make sure that Missouri is the epicenter of economic growth and activity as we think about the future of agriculture, not just here, but all across the country.
Thank you. Christi, any closing thoughts?
So as an economist, we spend a lot of time talking about the margin, right? How small changes can lead to large potential impacts. And when I look at food entrepreneurship, there is the potential for those marginal effects is really profound, especially in our rural communities where employment opportunities might be more limited. So, for example, take what's currently happening in child care. If you can find it, good luck. And if you can find it, let's not even talk about how the cost of it. And so if you find yourself at home, but you have a small garden and you can take your zucchini and turn that into zucchini bread for sale at your local farmer's market. Now, not only are we potentially addressing an issue with food insecurity, but now you've also got added income coming into the household. And while that might seem small, the exponential effects of that are limitless. And it's so exciting to be part of a network that's saying, can we identify those resources that are necessary for success and make sure that they're available to those folks?
Thank you so much. Sheri, some closing comments.
No, thank you. I just want to say thank you for having me and inviting me here. It's been very inspirational listening to the other panel members. I've learned a little bit too, so this is always a good thing. Agriculture and having a significant agribusiness economy in the state really drives and supports many of the key businesses that thrive all across, as I mentioned, all across that value chain. And at Purina, we believe that the farmers who grow and raise our ingredients that feed our pets are really the initial and the original stewards of the land and the natural resources that they use. And in order to support that growth and to support the farmers sustainably, we need those new sources of ingredients, and especially, as I mentioned, in that protein and fat space. And this opportunity really allows for the state and all of you and all of us and everybody, because it's a collective we in order to make a difference in this area, to lean into that and support the existing and the new opportunities. We oftentimes, we're always scouting for those new materials and these small companies. We spend a lot of time looking at startups because that's where the game changer is really going to be in order for us to really kind of think about things differently, not only to broaden the supply, but also to broaden the supply sustainably. And that's a key thing. And so, the opportunity to use these products by a variety of industries is really limitless.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from 4 industry experts that are committed to the future of our state and our agriculture and our agricultural families. I couldn't think of 4 experts that could do a better job. Please help me thank them for their time today. I thank my friend Marshall Stewart. I don't know where he is. He's telling me to get off the stage, and for Extension and all the things that you do and the folks watching for our family farms. As Garrett said, it makes a big difference in our lives, and we really appreciate the investment and the time and energy you take to make Missouri's agriculture a better place to live and work and grow in the future. So thank you so much for letting us be a part of it. Back to Marshall Stewart.
I will say this in closing. I look at this panel today. We got Nestle, Purina sitting here, great company. I think it's kind of cool we got Missouri State on the stage at the University of Missouri. She needs a round of applause. This is good stuff. And I actually think you look pretty good in black and gold. So we may have to negotiate that, Dean, over there to bring her over this side. But I also want to say a special thank you to my friend and somebody that does a great work here at the university, Chris Daubert. He doesn't want to take credit for all this, but Lieutenant Governor, you know it. This guy right here is the reason this is going on. And I think sometimes that gets lost in all the noise. But he has done a terrific job of stewarding this, keeping it together. So Chris Daubert, thank you for what you're doing to change the economy of Missouri. It's really important.